I'm just so burnt out. There's too much to do. How can I do my job or get through my day when it's just so much? Greetings, Pasadenans. It is I, your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier. And if this sounds like you, if you're wondering how to deal with it all, with all the things, but you feel totally overwhelmed by all the things that you have to do, the Torah gives us two great ideas for how to deal with this overwhelm in this week's parsha. But before we get to that, a couple of PSAs. First, if you are not subscribed to this channel already, as your rabbi, I recommend you click that little button down there that says subscribe. There's even a little picture of a bell that you can ding-a-ling-a-ling, and that will get you notified on your cellular device every time we drop a new video, so you won't miss a single one. The second thing I want to tell you about is something really cool coming to the Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center this week. We are starting our regular Wednesday night class, the Miller Introduction to Judaism class. We taught this last year in Pasadena. It was a big hit. This will be, I think my 6th year in a row teaching this class. It is my absolute favorite class to teach. This is truly an introduction to Judaism. Judaism 101, you might say. And it's appropriate if you're considering converting to Judaism, or maybe you are a spouse in a Jewish family, but you're not Jewish and you want to know how all the things work. Maybe you've been Jewish your whole life, but you're curious about why we do some of the things that we do. When do we bow during services, and why are those people getting up on their tippy toes like that? What's the point of keeping kosher? And how can I rest on Shabbat when it seems like so much work? If you've had these questions, this is the class for you, whether you're Jewish, not Jewish yet. Nobody's perfect. And listen, I took a class like this about 20 years ago. It's kind of how I got here. I've sat in on other classes like this, and the Miller program is the single best curriculum in my experience for an introduction to Judaism, and it's my favorite class to teach, and we have a fabulous time doing it. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, it's going to be every Wednesday night at 6:30 at PJTC. Email us in the office or reach out to me if you need any more details. There's probably flyers in your email, that sort of thing. But it starts this week, February 12th, and it's going to be a good time. So if you want to drop into the first one, try it out, see if it's right for you, check it out. But for right now, I want to talk about the great advice the Torah gives us on how to deal with being overwhelmed in your daily life. I feel like people have gotten busier and busier with careers that are very demanding, parenting that's very demanding, taking care of your own parents that's very demanding, and there's just so many things. And it's easy to get overwhelmed and burnt out. And not only that, to overwhelm and burn out the other people in your life, the people that you want to serve. Are you serving them well if you're burnt out? This parsha is called Parashat Yitro. It's named after Moses' father-in-law, who was kind of a busy dude in his own right. He was the high priest of Midian, had his own sheep's business. And so he was an experienced leader, and he sees his son-in-law Moses as a brand new leader of a whole bunch of people, and Moses is failing at it, right? We got out of Egypt. That was pretty good. Got across the sea, worth singing about. But now we're parked. Now we're stuck. And Moses just sits all day adjudicating for people, teaching them what God wants them to do. Because right now, Moses is the only one that God's talking to. And everybody's like, what's God saying? Is this bird okay to eat? Can I pick up firewood on Shabbat, or do I have to do that on Friday afternoon? And my neighbor punched me in the nose. Can I punch him back? And people had all sorts of questions. And Moses was the only one they thought they could ask. And so it said people were lined up outside his tent from morning until night. And Yitro, Moses' father-in-law, sees this and gives him some nice father-in-law-ly advice and says, this thing that you're doing, Moses, is not good. You're wearing yourself out, and you're wearing your people out because they have to stand in line and wait to talk to you. And nothing else is getting done, and we're not getting any closer to the promised land. So here's what you should do. You should find people that you trust, people of a good character, good reputation, and then you set up leaders of groups of 10, and leaders of groups of 50, and leaders of groups of 100, and leaders of groups of 1,000. And when people have a beef or they want to know the right way to do something, they'll go to their 10-person captain. And if that person can't figure it out, they send it up to the 50-person captain, and so on. And then you, Moses, only adjudicate the hardest issues. And then you go talk to God and figure that stuff out. But you have all these people to share the work with, and way more gets done. Way more people get their questions answered. Saves you a lot of grief, saves the people a lot of time, and then you can really get some good stuff together and maybe get a move on to the promised land. So that's the first lesson. If you feel overwhelmed, ask for help. Find people that you trust, find people who you respect, their wisdom, their character, and say, can you help me out with this? Can you maybe solve this problem for this other person who thinks that I'm the only one who can solve this problem? Or maybe we could work together on this and share some of the burden. Do not be afraid to ask for help from people that you trust. So that's the first part of this parsha. The second part of this parsha, and possibly more famous, is the 10 Commandments, right? Instead of the people constantly asking Moses for every little detail, God's like, all right, let's put down an operating manual. We'll start with like 10 rules. How about that? And so God says, Moses, gather all the people together. I'm going to give them the rule book, and that'll save some time with you always answering every little question. And so God lays out the first 10 rules or commandments, as it were. And the people are like, oh, that's great. Thanks for the book. This is super loud and scary. Moses, can you just write down the rest for us? And that'll be cool. So the second lesson in how to not be overwhelmed is teach other people how to solve their own problems. Take the wisdom that you have and lay it out. If there's something you find you have to teach people over and over again, write it down in a little checklist or teach it to others so that they can solve their own problems. And if you think they were grateful to you before for solving their problems for them, they will be so much more grateful to you for helping them solve their own problems themselves. For me, these are the most powerful lessons from Parashat Yitro. If you are overwhelmed in your position of leadership or responsibility for other people, don't be afraid to ask for help from people whom you trust, and have the courage and take the time to teach others how you do your work so that they can become more self-sufficient, and you will find yourself with all sorts of time to work or to work together with others on the things that are most important to you. Thanks for learning this Torah with me today, Pasadenans. I really appreciate the opportunity for us to learn together. Like I said earlier, if you want to continue our learning together, make sure you're subscribed to this channel here on the PJTC YouTube channel Areno. And if you want to learn with me live, we have a super good time in our Miller Introduction to Judaism class, which starts this week and will be going every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. at PJTC for the foreseeable future. Have a great week, everybody, and until next time, peace.